Welcome back to the vlog. Thanks for watching today. We're back at Capital Casino and buying for the 1-3 game for $500. Looking forward to continue our win streak. Very first hand we look at, we have Ace Queen of Hearts on the button. So having a good hand against a late position limper, I'm just going to raise, make it 20. The big blind calls, and so does the limper. The big blind is a very solid tag who is extremely tricky at times. Flop comes 7-7-9 and it's check to me. I'm going to continue the story like I have a premium hand, which I do, and I bet out $20. The big blind now thinks for a moment before not calling, not folding, but yes, check raising. He puts in a raise to 65. I really didn't think he would do this with a 7, and I doubt he would do it with a 9. So I was a little confused by his check raise. And I think that maybe this is one of those times where he's getting a little tricky. And I don't really have a strong enough hand, in my opinion, to just flat and have him lead into me again, because the only thing I can really catch is an ace or a queen. So I decided to put maximum pressure and jam just in case he has some 9 with a weak kicker. He snaps it off rather quickly, and we see a run out of a 7 and another 9, and he turns over pocket jacks, and he totally owned me on this hand, and I totally punted off $260 worth of chips, and we're off to a rough start.
That was just a really bad time to try a bluff. The only thing you had in your favor was your image and your range advantage. Everything else was in your opponent's favor. He showed strength by check raising the flop. He's a tag player who likes to mix it up. He has a willingness to gamble. He knows that you have a good range, and he is still willing to put money into the pot. So I don't know what you're really thinking. This is an easy fold in my opinion, and you've been watching too much Rampage.
There's an early raise to $9, and 3 people put in the call for the $9. So with all that dead money out there with 10s in the cutoff, I decided to raise to 50. Probably could go a little bit bigger. Everybody ended up folding out, so we take down all that dead money, and we're moving back in the right direction. There's 2 limpers in front of us, and we look down at ace-10 offsuit on the button, put in a raise to 20, and we get called by the big blind and one of the limpers. So we go 3 ways to a flop with $64 in the pot. Actually get a pretty decent flop. It comes ace, king, jack with 2 spades. So we have a backdoor flush draw and a gutter to a straight and top pair, of course. It gets checked around to us. We bet out $30. There's a lot of possible draws out there, and I want them to be paying for them. First person folds. Second limper puts in the call, and we're going to go heads up to the turn of a 3 of diamonds. It does put up a backdoor flush draw in diamonds, but overall this is pretty much a blank. If I was ahead before, I'm definitely ahead now, and I decided to go for 3/4 pot and bet out $90. It doesn't take long for the person to put in the call. I'm really putting him on maybe a hand like a pair and a flush draw. I don't know whether it's a king, maybe a king queen of spades, king 9 of spades, or maybe he has an ace and a backdoor diamond draw. River card comes as a 10 of clubs, so we make 2 pair. Any queen makes a straight, but when he checks it over to me, I'm taking all queens out of his range, and I'm just putting the rest of my chips in the pot. I only have like $113, $115 remaining. He puts in the call, I show my 2 pair, and he mucks. Shout out to Bard over at Crush Live Poker. He went over a hand very similar to this, and I just happened to watch it right before I played. There was a more active game at the other table, so I switched over to it. A couple rounds in, I pick up ace-king offsuit under the gun +1, raise to 15. Player on my direct left has been the action player so far. He's been playing a lot of hands and not playing them particularly well, but he does happen to have a nice stack in front of him. The other 2 players end up calling also, so we're going to go 4 ways to a flop with $64 in the pot. Looking for a good flop, and that's exactly what we get. We get king 10-8 rainbow. That's a pretty good flop for our hand, so we bet out $25. Player to my direct left goes into the tank for what seemed like a minute or so. He finally ends up putting in the call, and the other 2 players quickly fold out. So heads up to a turn card of another 8. Here I'm a little bit worried that he might have been calling with an 8. He's been calling with pretty light hands, but I'm not going to be able to give him a free card. There's a lot of possible draws out there like queen jack, jack 9, you name it, it's out there. And so I lead. He thinks for a moment, lets it go, and we take down this small pot. So we're off to a better start at this table than we were at the other. The action has been pretty good. We end up getting two limpers in front of us, and we look down at two queens. I raised to 20. I'm thinking that I probably should have gone to about 25 because people were calling just about every size raise. Player behind me calls, the button calls. First limper puts in the call, and second limper thinks for a little bit before he puts in the call. So we go 5 ways to a flop with 104 in it. And the flop comes 7-3-7 with 2 clubs. So as long as someone doesn't have a 7, I'm in pretty good shape. There is a chance someone might have some sort of flush draw. I was expecting everyone to check to me, and I was trying to determine my sizing. I was thinking about leading for somewhere between $40 and $50 on this particular flop because it is kind of wet, and I want to kind of price out some of those draws. But then something really interesting happened. I have a very good read on the player from early position, and occasionally he will give me this tell, and when he does, it means he has extreme strength. And he just so happened to give me this tell. This tell doesn't happen very often, but when it does, I have like 100% accuracy on it. So I take it for what it's worth, and I'm going to be extremely cautious with my hand. So the first player ends up checking over to me. Next player puts in the check, and I decide to go for a check. It gets checked around to the player on the button, who looks at his cards for a little bit before he decides on betting out $25. Now it's back over to the player in early position, and I expect him to have a very strong hand at this point. And he kind of thinks for a little bit and goes through like he has some sort of tough decision going on before he finally puts in a raise to 125. As I said, I have a pretty good read on this person. I think they have a very strong hand. And so when it's my turn, I just kind of take my cards and put them where they belong, in the muck. I kept the camera rolling just so hopefully we can see how accurate my read was. The other players fold out except for the player on the button, who quickly makes the call for the extra $100. Turn card comes as a 6 of spades. Early position player shoves all in, button snap calls, and we see a river card of a jack of spades. Early position player rolls over 7-4 offsuit for 3/7. So I think my read was very good, and it probably saved me a few dollars. There's one limper. I look down at 2 9s in the low jack, make it 20. Player directly behind me puts in the call. We also get a call from the big blind and the limper. So we're going to go 4 ways to a flop with 81 in. The flop comes Jack 6-5 with 2 diamonds. So not a bad flop, as long as someone doesn't have a jack. I figure this is a safe board to continue on. If someone has a jack, I'll probably find out fairly quickly. So I lead for 20, and the player behind me folds, and the other 2 players put in the call. I'm going to be a little cautious here, especially when the turn card is a 7 of diamonds. So it completes the flush. There's 3 to a straight on board, and there's always a chance someone has a jack still. So I'm just trying to get the showdown at this point. So when it's checked to me, I check it back. We see a river card of a 6 of spades. This pairs the second card on board, which is also a danger sign. They both end up checking to me. I'm happy to take my showdown value, so I check it back. The big blind shows 7-3 of spades. The other player kind of flashes that he had a 5, and I showed that I had my 9s. So I'm happy to take down this small pot, and glad I didn't have to face any pressure. Most of the players have been playing with a straddle at this point. There was a $6 straddle on this hand, so I opened for a raise to 21. We get a call from the big blind and a call from the straddler. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop with 64 in. Flop is king, king, jack with 2 hearts. Definitely something that smashes my range. They check it over to me. I lead small for $15. Just looking to extract some value. It could look like I have a king. It could look like I can have a jack. Puts a lot of pressure on hands like small pocket pairs. I end up getting 1 color from the big blind. Turn card comes is a jack. So not a bad card, not a great card. He checks it to me. I decided to check it back because I'd probably check it back if I had a king in this spot too. River card comes as a 3 of diamond. I check it again. He ends up flopping a open-end straight draw that misses, and my ace high is good for this pot. The $6 straddle is on this hand. There is a couple limpers in front of me. I'm on the button with king, queen suited. Definitely going to put on a raise. I make it 30. I really think I should go probably closer to 40 on this spot. I ended up getting 3 callers, so we're going to head 4 ways to a flop with $134 in the pot. I have a pretty good hand. I got position, I got the initiative, and I do not exactly get the flop. It comes 5-6-6 rainbow. It does get checked to me, and I do still have a lot of overpairs in my range, and when checked to, I'm just going to close my eyes and hope for the best and put out a bet for $45, about 1/3 pot. First 2 players don't think too long before releasing their hand, and the player to my right decides that he's going to look me up. And I don't blame him, because unless I have an overpair, this flop does not exactly hit me, and he puts in the call for the 45. I was going to barrel on any big card or a diamond, and we get a small diamond. So it's a little bit of mixed blessings, because this could definitely hit his range, but when checked to, I'm just going to say I'm going to continue with this. I'm going to play it like I have an overpair. If I had a hand like queens, kings, jacks, I would definitely bet this, and we take this one down. This hand I have the $6 straddle. An aggressive player opens for $20. It gets folded back to the player in the big blind who puts in the call for the $20. And now it's on my little mystery hand. As you can see, I'm counting out a raise, and I make it 100. All right, take a moment. Put your answer down in the comments section. CB can read me like a book. I'll give you a few hints. It's not a piece of garbage hand. It's not a super, super strong hand. But it is near the top of my range. And I would definitely do this with hands that are a little bit weaker than this. All right, you got your answers down? I'm sure you're all probably have me like nailed right to the T right now. And yes, it is the most obvious one you're thinking of, ace-king offsuit. Happy to take down $40 without a fight. No fuss, no muss. For our final hand of the evening, we look down at 2 queens in the low jack. There was a $12 raise, or raise to $12, and a caller to my right. I make it 40. Again, my raise sizing is a little bit too small. I should go larger. And thanks to Lee Jones, I know that now. Flop comes, well, queen, deuce, deuce. There's really hard to extract any value when you flop so big. When it's checked to me, I check it back. Turn card comes as a 3 of diamonds, so I'm thinking maybe I can get something from someone with some sort of flush draw. I leave for 25, he mucks it real quick. We did end up playing for another half hour or so, didn't pick up anything interesting. Cash out for a small win, which is pretty good considering that I punted off $280 on that very first hand. Otherwise, I played fairly well. I saved a little money with those pocket queens when I got that good read on my opponent. As I said, I don't always get that read. It's not like I know every hand he has. It's just occasionally I come across it, and when I do, it's like 100% accurate. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do so. It really does help out the channel. And until next time, good luck at the tables, and we'll see you in a few days.